For those of you who've been to a few of these sessions, you've seen Wulf Kaal talk. You know he's an engaging presenter with a variety in a variety of different areas of blockchain and cryptocurrency areas of focus. And tonight he's here once again, and he's here with his business partner, Vlad Andrei, and they're going to talk about their approach to ICOs and the regulation and technology involved with ICOs, or ICOs, depending on your pronunciation. So, gentlemen, I'll hand it over to you.
Hello. So I want to thank first Zach for the kind introduction. I'd like to be on this panel. Also, where's George? Where's George? Hello, George. Thank you, George, for making this possible. Really appreciate it. Of course, IIT. Thank you very much. So many of you know me. So tonight is not about me. Tonight is about Vlad. And I have to say, I've been trying to find this kind of talent for a really long time. And so I'm super excited today to be able to introduce Vlad to the Chicago community. And so what we want to talk about today is a little bit what we do, ICOs, what are the components. So this is really for Vlad, not for me. I'm just introducing Vlad, basically. And then Vlad will run us through the roadmap, product technology, marketing, and how they all intersect. And then I'll wrap up with the no-nos. Yeah? So legal no-nos at the end. Just very quickly. So if you want to go on, just a quick introduction. So again, this is not about me. This is about the team. We're introducing Vlad. Vlad has a wonderful, wonderful background that is so insanely hard to come by. So Stanford, BS and MS background in computer engineering, Goldman, just like myself, right afterward. And we actually intersected. I was in London, he was in New York at the time. And then, at Goldman that is, then he left and joined 3 very, very successful startups. And you should probably talk a little bit about that as well yourself. And I was just phenomenally lucky to meet him at a point in time when he was about to become free, a free man. And so here we are presenting. So Vlad is really running and managing our team. We have Yonut, PhD in AI, Dragos, substantial computing background, Kaylin also. And of course, I want to announce today, we're here to talk to developers. We are hiring. We would like to hear if you have an interest, if you are becoming free, where you see yourself in the next 5 years, and so forth. Can I get a show of hands of developers in the room, please? If you want to talk to us, we would love to talk to you. Yeah? So if you have this background, please come see us. But also HR. So we talked to a few of you before, and we hope to talk to a few of you on the HR side, especially in Asia. We had some conversations earlier. And so yeah, we are looking, and we need support. So we are really in high-tech blog. We're trying to do the full package, everything that's needed on the tech side, development side. So that starts off with structuring, and we're right now coordinating and negotiating various legal partnerships with leading ICOs, crypto law firms. And you may know that they're becoming extremely active now. Yeah? So they smell blood. And so a lot of them really want in the space. Some take deferred compensation arrangements, some take 100%. So we've seen 100% arrangements in this space. We've received offers for 100% arrangements. So this is all becoming possible now because people start realizing that by becoming investors, they're actually better off in this space. Yeah? So as Scott mentioned it, that the legal arrangements that we've seen in the past with billable hour insanity, yeah, so that many of you feel scared to pick up the phone and call your lawyers, those days are ending. They're not quite over yet for the top law firms, but the more this space is evolving, I think we can assume that these arrangements will continue. So we are basically the mediator between the ICO, and I do say ICO, token sale, startup, and the legal team that supports the structure, in fact. And we do that in most jurisdictions. Yeah, so we have legal contacts and counsel in jurisdictions that are crypto-friendly and in jurisdictions that are not crypto-friendly. And for those of you who are in the space, you understand what that means. So some are way more supportive. For instance, Gibraltar is starting in 2018, January 2018. The government of Gibraltar is now registering DLT businesses. I don't know if you understand what that means. It's a pretty big deal, right? So you are now able in Gibraltar to become a DLT government registered entity. So think about doing that in the United States. Yes? Think about the SEC offering you a white paper checklist that they go down. If you're compliant, they register. If you're not compliant, they send you back to fix the white paper. Yeah? Imagine what that means. Yeah? So to us, that's a really big deal because it supports the crypto community substantially. So marketing, PR, we of course, that intersects largely with the technology side. And I'm already speaking too much, so I'll shut up and handle it. All right.
Thank you all for the very kind words. Thanks everybody. I think you are all very fortunate to be here because you've had amazing presentations before myself. And you now have a good understanding of what blockchain is, about what cryptocurrencies are. You've got an idea about how this whole thing has spiked up over the past year. And here we're trying to get a little bit more hands-on, right? We're trying to tell you a little bit about how to do an ICO. Before we do that, let me first ask you guys, why are ICOs so hot these days? Why does everybody want to do an ICO?
The fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. That's actually a very good point because everybody's doing one, so I have to do one as well. Yep.
Funding.
Tell me more about funding.
Number one, you can always identify a problem. So now, A, you can identify a problem globally. B, you can get funding globally. So instead of chasing one person with, say, $1 million, you can chase 1 million people with $1.
Absolutely. So that I would call that global reach, right? So instead of catering only to U.S. investors, you're now opening it up to the entire world.
It's fairly easy.
Low friction.
Yes.
Yep.
You can get paid for an idea instead of a product.
Yep. That happens a lot. Anything else? Yes?
Chicken and egg problem. You can incentivize your network to basically help grow the network, trying to create a network effect.
Yeah, building a community and then hoping that that community will help you grow the business. Yep. I would also add the fact that it's a lot cheaper to do an ICO than to raise money in other ways. So the fees that you have to pay per transactions are much lower. And another huge benefit of ICOs, which hasn't been seen so far in the industry, is the fact that you can finance open source development. Think about how open source development used to be like for companies that build Linux, right? And other open source software. They would make most of their money from services. But now you have this whole open source community and they're building open source code and they found a new way to monetize that. You're basically attaching a coin to your open source platform and then once the platform picks up, you're also benefiting. I think that's very important. So yeah, that's the overall motivation of why a lot of companies are going the ICO route. So very low friction, global reach, very inexpensive, and then you have this new open source code model. So now let's get our hands dirty, right? Let's see how do you do an ICO. What are the main components? So as Wulf mentioned, you have the technology and white paper side, the marketing, and then the structure. And these three are tied to each other, right? The decisions you make on the structuring side will determine how you do some of the technology. And likewise, what you do on the marketing side will impact the two, whether you're allowed to do certain things on the structuring side or not. So, this is a timeline or a snapshot of a typical ICO from where it starts to where it ends. And a very simple way to think about it is that you essentially have two phases. You have the first phase in which you're aiming to build up your marketing side, you're writing your white paper, and then you're starting off with the structuring work, the legal work. And then once all of that is ready, then you can start marketing it, right? Then you can get awareness, you gain awareness about your product. You can engage the community. So to go step by step on the technology side, you would be doing the design first of the marketing side, and you would be writing the first version of the much better. Thank you. Yeah. The white paper first draft, then you would be finishing the marketing sides, QA and edits, right? And then it's live. Then you can have people give you feedback on your idea. On the marketing side, you would start by engaging the community with the white paper. So the white paper, you can think of it as a very simple way to describe what you're doing and why you're different than other people in the industry. You will also start negotiating your listing process with companies like ICO List and Smith & Crown and so on. And as mentioned, you'll be doing the structuring side. And in the second phase, you would be focusing a lot more on the security side, the token creation, and making sure that everything works well on the technology side. On the marketing side, you're basically putting a lot of, you're revving up your engine, as I like to say. So you're pushing the gas, right? You have everything ready. Now you're going to conferences. You're telling people about your idea. You're engaging communities. You're doing your Facebook pages, social media, Bitcoin Talk announcements. You're trying to get due diligence reports from ICO rating companies. You would be trying to get onto exchanges, and then that's pretty much it. So moving on to the next slide, let's try to see which are the main components on the technology side. All right, so first of all, you need to build your marketing side. The marketing side is the face of your company, right? So when clients hear about you, they would go to your marketing side, they would read your white paper, they would check out your team, they would try to understand, why would I want to buy your token? Why is this so good? Then you have the login product. The login product means you click sign up, you click register, you provide your login information, and from there you would be able to buy the tokens. Compliance is a very, very important part of this, and depending on how you're doing the structuring, you have fewer or less requirements on the compliance side. But generally, the most important ones would be the wallet address whitelisting, which means you would only accept transfers from people who have registered on your platform, so that not anybody can send random transfers to the smart contract. KYC, AML, bad actor checks, those are the typical things. The token creation will vary quite a bit depending on the business model, right? So there are very simple ERC-20 tokens, which are just meant to fundraise in a way. And then you have more complex tokens, which have things like dividends built in. And they have a reward structure for the community and so on. Integrating with the wallets obviously is a pre-component, because you need to be able to send your money to the smart contracts. And the white paper is a description of what you're doing. So we would also help you with that, with polishing the white paper, with trying to communicate it in the best way and cater it to the right audience, right? Because your audience might be in the US, but you might want to target Asia. You might want to target Europe. You might want to target people who have a real estate background, people who have a supply chain management background. So that is very important. So I would think of the left-hand side of the components on the tech side as the standard package, or the must-haves. And then on the right-hand side, you have a lot of the optional things that you can add depending on what you're actually doing. So marketing side video, then you can have external security audits, which I highly recommend. Two-factor auth, you can integrate with Civic to get information about the user's identities. You can have the wallets inside the web product, or you can have them in a desktop product, or you can have them on a mobile product. You can, at some point you would need to figure out what types of transfers you'd be accepting, or whether those would be in Bitcoin or Ethereum or other altcoins, or whether you would also want to accept fiat currencies. And again, all of these are tied to the structuring. There are a lot of regulations around this. We talked about the additional smart contract development, and and then you can have bounty contracts for engaging the crowd to identify any potential issues with your code. So on the marketing side, the general idea is that you need to do two things. You need to create a lot of buzz so that people gain awareness about your product, and you also need to engage the community, right? So you need to have an open discussion and dialogue with the community. People need, you need to answer what their questions are and try to understand where they're coming from, right? So it's a two-way process. It's not just one way, you know, I'm the company, I'm doing all the marketing, and then I'm all passive. So here we have community and social media management, developing the communication, positioning, and target audience strategy, messaging strategy, content marketing. So let's say you are an expert in building supply chain, right? And then supply chain products. And you are writing an article on it, and you would like this article to be propagated through a lot of media outlets, and so that people can gain awareness about your company and your product through the content you're writing and you're delivering. Then you have paid campaign management, and then again, depending on who you're targeting, you potentially need to translate the content to Chinese, to Russian, South Korean. And last but not finally, you would need to decide whether you would like your token to be traded on public exchanges, or whether you would like other ICO promotion sites to write about you and to list you as a token. And that is actually a really good way to gain awareness about, to create awareness about your product, because at the very beginning, very few people actually know about your site. You know, they don't know about your company. Your site's traffic is very, very low at the beginning. But if you look at companies like Smith & Crown or ICO List, those are already portals which are attracting millions of visits. So it's a much better way to try to target them and help them promote you. Okay. That's it. And well, thank you again for the kind words. I think the secret to building a successful company is to have a strong team and to complement each other. So I'm very happy to be working with you.
Thank you, Vlad. This is great. So from the exciting tech implementation part to something that's a little less sexy, perhaps, law. What should you be thinking about? So in essence, we want to be sort of the voice in the back of your head, oh, I heard this. Yeah? So what I want to talk about now is 6 principles that I think consensus by the top players. So this is based on a memo written by Lee Schneider at Debevoise, who some believe to be the top person in this right now, on the law side. Yeah? So he worked with the top players, the Coinbases of the world and so forth, to figure out what should be the basic principles one should follow in doing an ICO. And for many of you this is sort of intuitive. You would say, yeah, duh, that makes sense. But it's probably maybe important to revisit that and have it in, if you want, in the back of your mind. First thing is white paper. Yeah, so now, let me tell you this. We talked today to one attorney who will remain unnamed, who said, don't even mention the white paper. You shouldn't even publish a white paper. From the regulatory/legal perspective, do not go there. Now, this is industry practice right now. Everybody does it. The argument being is that publishing a white paper is a disclosure document. It is, quote unquote, an IPO equivalent of a prospectus, an S1, if you want. Yeah, so those of you who've done IPOs, you know how this works. So if you put the white paper out, the argument is you're basically saying that you're a security. You're implying that you're a security. Now, we're not going that far. Okay? It's industry practice. Everybody does it. So if you do the white paper, just remember that there is an emerging dissent on what that actually means. So some lawyers will tell you one thing, other lawyers will tell you something else. And of course, every time you pay big money for that. Yeah? You decide to do that. Some people don't. I mean, there's some people in the room who I know will remain unnamed who are not doing that right now. No. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? Well, you describe the protocol in the network. You identify clear and compelling reasons for the token to exist, and that is something we talked about in our last session. So for those of you who were there, what is the compelling reason for the token to exist? Well, there has to be an economic value attached to the token, right? You need to be able to describe what are the economics, what is the underlying economic value that the token inherently symbolizes. Yeah? If you can't describe that succinctly, you have a problem. You need to be able to describe that succinctly. And then the other question, of course, what would the token exchange for? Yeah? So if you give a token, what is the economic value you're offering, and what are you receiving in return, and why? Yeah? So if you can't describe that, and there are a lot of ICOs that simply either skip that step or explain it in a very sort of incoherent way. Let's be kind. Okay, so okay, let's go to the next one. So next one, you need a development roadmap. So pre-ICO, many of you are thinking pre-ICO is wonderful, we're giving discounts, we're letting top players in, they support us, we look good, we close the pre-ICO early, this gets everybody excited about the actual ICO, it all looks good. Yeah? But if you do it, there are certain things that you want to think about in terms of compliance and steps that you want to take. And we can talk about this more at the appropriate time. So provide, you want the development roadmap, you want stages, and clear allocation. Yeah? And why do you need this? Why do you want to disclose this up front? I don't have time to go through it all. I apologize. It's all, by the way, all these slides are on our webpage, hightechblog.com. And so it's about transparency. If you are transparent, if you explain what you're doing with pre-ICO income, revenue, you are creating a market for yourself and that people trust the product more. They understand how it's allocated, who receives what and why. That's a very, very important step, also from a marketing perspective. Third, to us, this is paramount. It's all about transparency. So it should be open source, Scott. Yeah, this is the way. Yeah. To me, it's the only way. So if the banks go in and decide to create private blocks, I'm sure we have some bankers in the room. No, not to me. I mean, to me, it's just okay. You can try it. You can try to monopolize, but it won't work, in my opinion. So use well-known tokens. ERC20 is right now the gold standard. For many of you, you're saying, well, scalability is an issue. This will change, and it will change. So some people are arguing IOTA. Who knows? Yeah? There are some issues that I think are being ironed out. I think there's actually more in IOTA than I had previously realized. And I'm not touting IOTA here. I'm just reading more and I'm sharing what I'm reading. I thought they didn't have the double spending under control. Apparently they do. So I have received from their advisors additional information that suggests that IOTA actually has double spending under control, which has quite a few implications. Yeah? Okay. So okay. So open public. Done.
Wulf, can you speak a little louder?
Hello, George. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So fair pricing. Transparency, again, it's all about, to get out of the way. Again, you don't have to take photos, they're on the webpage, but if you want to. So, uncapped raises? What? No. I actually think it's unethical. And let's think about why. Why is an uncapped raise unethical? Somebody tell me this. Why is an uncapped raise ICO unethical?
Uncapped raise?
Uncapped ICO.
You can just keep creating coins. The more money you get, there's no limit to the amount of coins, so that's just what the value of the coin is.
It's dilution. Okay, let's go back to the original question. What is the economic value you are token exchanges for? How can you define that if you have an uncapped raise? It's something that I may or may not develop in 2 years' time? What? No. Okay. So yeah, so there's certain basic principles that we just want to instill in people, and I think okay, guys, this is not just me making this stuff up. Okay, this is consensus. So okay, so consensus written in the memo. Yeah, I'm not just drumming my own drum here. Yeah, okay. So so minimum amount, cap raises, refund buys if the minimum amount is not met. If the minimum amount is not met, it's over. Yeah? Refund, start again, try something else if you want. Okay. Tell the reader what you're doing and how you compensate the development. Now this is a tricky thing, because if you write a lot about this, you're writing a disclosure document that makes you look like you are out there to raise money in the form of an IPO. Yeah, so it's a catch-22. You should be doing it, but you shouldn't be doing too much of it. Yeah? So some people actually say only write a white paper the way Satoshi did. It's a conceptual yellow paper. Yeah? This is how my technology works. Well, let's just say we moved away from that. Yeah? So we see more and more white papers that talk about what is the ICO, what does the ICO look like, why are we doing it, where are we going with this, and all this good stuff. Yeah? If you do that, if you describe too much in the white paper about the ICO, you're looking more and more like a security. Now we can argue, and Schneider actually argues, no, it's use tokens, we're all good, we should be fine. Now in this country, I want to be very clear, I cannot recommend to anybody. I know there are people in the room who are doing it nevertheless. Nobody's mentioned now. I cannot, in good conscience, recommend to anybody to do this in this country, to do an ICO in this country right now. There are ways to structure it. There are 506C, 506B, Reg A options, but they're all diluting the economic model of the ICO. Yeah? The benefits that Vlad described of why people want to do an ICO is the perfect financing tool. There's never been anything better than that. It's the perfect, purest way of raising capital. Never been done before this way. If you dilute it with the existing regulatory infrastructure, so Reg A is typically what people think right now. Can sale over time, there's no caps, all this wonderful, well, you pay the lawyers, it's regulatory costs that you don't have in the pure model. And now then some people say, well, you can bifurcate. Okay, but if you bifurcate, you are, again, arguably diluting the original model. Yeah? So where are we at right now? Well, I would say, and I think there's some consensus right now, that there's regulatory arbitrage. Meaning people do ICOs abroad. They're more comfortable in the Gibraltars of the world, in the Singapores of the world, in the Zooks, Switzerlands of the world. Now, what does that mean for America? We have the capital markets. We have the economic power. If we are now siphoning, if we're allowing this siphoning off by way of regulatory arbitrage, now I think we can get back on our feet, but this is right now happening. And Chicago, for those of you who are familiar, we're one of the few jurisdictions that actually have a liaison, blockchain liaison, that tries to sort of signal to the community that maybe Chicago's developing something. And I just, where's Will Turner? Is Will still here? He's gone, okay. So we just talked about this. You know, given the budget that we're seeing right now, the budget problems in Illinois, well, maybe that's one way with the ICO model that you could fill that hole. Yeah? So think about the taxes that you could attract to Illinois if you're setting up the regulatory model, right? If you avoid regulatory arbitrage. Let me tell you this, guys. I'm sending everybody to Gibraltar right now. I'm open about this. I think they have the best model because they are registering DLT business and nobody else does that. And some people will say, no, well, it should be Singapore and Zook. And so you can argue, we can talk about this. But in terms of regulatory arbitrage, I would love to be able to say, come to Illinois. We can't do that right now. I would be a very bad advisor. I would be unethical if I told my clients to do that. So we can't right now, in good conscience. I want to though. Yeah? I really want to be able to do that. So, kill it. Okay, kill it. 6. Avoid marketing the token as investment. Yeah. So this goes back to some of the earlier points. Thank you. You give me the last slide. Just big no-nos. Yeah. Don't do any of this. Please, just don't. Okay. If you want the top 10 of don't, please don't. Yeah? You can come to us. We may not even charge you. We'll give you sort of introductory perspectives on this. Yeah? We will get involved on the financing side for our company if you come to us with a tech implementation. Very clearly. Yeah? There's no way around that. We also have to pay people. Yeah? But we're happy to advise and bring people and talk about no-nos. And I think we will end there. Thanks for your attention. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Wulf and Vlad. Very, very well done.